It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Kurt William Hoffman, DDS, who's an orthodontist who's been practicing in the Kansas City metro area for the past 26 years. Kurt was lucky enough to practice with his father, Bill, for 10 years until his retirement. He's been an associate clinical professor of ortho at UMKC Dental School from 2010 to now. He's a diplomat of the American Board of Orthodontics. He's the chief medical officer of AlignFlow. AlignFlow is an app used to effectively deliver telehealth to orthodontists and their patients during the COVID crisis, and that is why I'm so grateful that he come on the show to talk about telehealth and if it's going to be a just a fad until we all get the vaccine or if it'll still go afterwards. Kurt and his wife Susan have 2 grown children and enjoy spending time with their 3 dogs and traveling when there's not a pandemic. So what are the names of your 3 dogs?
It is Boo, Fozzie, and Wally.
Boo, Fozzie, and Wally? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I was thinking it'd be like Ormco, Straight Wire, and Clear Bracket.
No.
Man, thanks for coming on the show. So I'm really grateful you came on because that's really what I want to know. Do you think this telehealth thing is a fad that as soon as we all get the vaccine next month or 2 that it's going to go away as fast as it came, or do you think it's here to stay?
I think it's here to stay. I think today's patients, are demanding more convenient options to, see their doctors. And aligners are perfect for that. I doubt it's going to go away. My patients love it and love being freed up from the schedule of having to miss work or school to come in and see me.
And there's a lot of telehealth coming out of Kansas City. I mean, what is it in the water in Kansas City that's telehealth capital? I mean, there's a lot going on there in telehealth. I'm sure you're aware of.
Absolutely. I don't know. Kansas City's a pretty big tech mecca, not as big as Austin or obviously the Silicon Valley, but there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think that's what's driving it. But getting back to your point about the pandemic and virtual care and how people are, using it in all different specialties, I think the pandemic just opened it up wide, and it's not going anywhere. Once it's over, insurance companies are going to love it, doctors are going to love it, but most importantly, patients are going to love it. They're going to find it so convenient, and they're already used to it now. And I think it's just increased acceptance to where that may have been a hurdle in my mind when I started this out a year ago. We started using AlignFlow. We went live with AlignFlow with live patients in my office the middle of December 2019. And patients took to it right away. The obstacles were mostly in my mind. I thought I'd get some pushback, and I got none. The patients took it and ran with it.
And by the way, I always tell everyone this is not a commercial. I was going to ask him for 2 tickets to the Chiefs for obvious reasons with their new hot fancy quarterback. But this isn't a commercial. But when you talk about telehealth, I mean, are you using the AlignFlow, the website AlignFlow.com? Is that the telehealth part of it?
Yes, that's our website, and I do go in there to log on to the desktop version of the software. There's basically 3 platforms for the telehealth system that we're using. The app that's on my cellular phone is called Align Essentials, and then the desktop version is called the Console, and then the patient has a version on their phone, and that's how we're able to communicate back and forth.
Okay, I am not nearly that smart to get all that. So the app on your phone is called Align Essentials. Yes. App. So you are you calling it? Is the word telehealth? Is that kind of the word they're going with, or is it teledental?
It's interchangeable, but telehealth is certainly more generic.
Okay, so the app for your phone is Align Essentials.
Correct.
Well, that for your smartphone is Align Essentials. Okay. Now, if my homie wants to download on a smartphone app Align Essentials, is that cost money, or can he just do it, or what's that?
Well, you can just do it, but it won't become active until we do set you up on a contract. So you
Okay.
do need to
And the
pay to
contract
use that.
is on AlignFlow.
Correct.
But you obviously you can't do any orthodontics over an app. So this is what, diagnosis, treatment planning, questions, or what is it?
No, it's actually tracking aligner patients. The way that I'm doing this with my aligner patients is I will get them into the office for one visit, the initial visit, and we'll do a consultation, explain treatment, discuss fees, scan them with the iTero scanner or whatever scanner you use, and submit their scan to Invisalign. I'm an Invisalign doctor. And then they go home. And for the second appointment, they come back. I've had their aligners fabricated. I've got them back from Invisalign. I'm able to do any interproximal reduction plus place attachments. And then I give them all of their aligners. They could have, 22 aligners. I give them 22 aligners. That represents, 44 weeks of their life. And then the patient downloads the patient app, sets it up on their phone, and we're tracking their aligner treatment remotely at that point. And I can show you, some screenshots on my phone of what it looks like when patients are going back and forth with me.
We started this show on iTunes because I have a face for radio, but we made it go to YouTube for faces like yours. If you're on iTunes, switch over to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Dentaltown Magazine. And all I want for Christmas is you to subscribe, and you can send us an email at howard@dentaltown.com, but go ahead and show us on YouTube.
Yeah, okay. So can you see my cell phone screen here?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and here's Align Essentials, just right here. You click on it and then go to your patient list, and it's got all my patients gradated based on how well they're doing and how much feedback they're giving me. And then I just select a patient and then go to the photos.
Now, is it okay to be showing these cases on?
Sure, I have got permission from, these people. But these are the kind of pictures that they take, and we'll just compare one from start to current. Compare, and these are the kind of pictures that we can see. You can see back in May when this patient started, this canine was in crossbite and this lateral incisor didn't look so good. Perio conditions better, and we're moving this canine out. So this patient has only been into my office twice at this point, and she actually lives out of state. So at the first appointment, I took a scan and submitted it to Invisalign. Went through the ClinCheck process, got the aligners back, and the patient came back for just their second appointment. And I put these attachments on. You can see the attachments in certain places. And she left with her aligners. And every 2 weeks, she sends in these 3 pictures, one with the aligners in the mouth and one with the aligners out, and then one with the new aligner in. And we just track the progress. And if the aligners are fitting and the movement's happening, then we know we're looking good. Some patients, if they're not tracking, we have them do a case refinement, have them come in and do one more scan. So it does really minimize the amount of appointments that these patients need. But that's kind of an idea of what the app looks like.
That is just crazy. It says, the future of the aligner experience is now in your hands. AlignFlow is a dynamic care platform that combines powerful AI, artificial intelligence, with the flexibility of do-it-yourself aligners and effectiveness of doctor-supervised care. Save time through live patient tracking and remote communication to reduce unnecessary in-office visits, increase revenue with fewer visits, creating more bandwidth for new patients, achieve faster results by optimizing aligner treatments for quicker progress and more reliable outcomes. So they're scanning it with the camera on their iPhone, and then AI is doing something?
Yes. The AI is monitoring when the patients are ready to change aligners. At this point, they are monitoring how many hours the patient is wearing the aligners, and sending both me messages and the patient messages when it's time to change. Or they would alert me to say this patient is banking a lot of hours and doing well. You can decrease the interval of aligner changes from 14 to 10 days or 7 days, or those are features that you can enable. I prefer just to track all that myself, because I'm a hands-on guy, and I like to look at how each individual patient's treatment is going and adjust it as needed.
And how is Patrick Mahomes' treatment going?
I wish he'd come see me. His teeth look pretty good, though. I don't think he needs this.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of great teeth in the NFL. That Lamar from the Baltimore,
Yes.
that's $1 million smile. So did AlignFlow, was that born in the pandemic? I mean, is this all brand new because of that pandemic?
No, we've been working on it for several years. It started when my son and a friend of his were out to dinner with our dad. And my son wanted to go out with me and his friend's dad, and we met. And he was in the software business and had this platform which he was using in medicine, physical therapy, and other specialties. And I went home after dinner and I was like, wow, I see an application in orthodontics for this. So I called Mike back and said, we need to start working on it. And that was probably 2 years ago. So we worked on it for about 1.5 years. And then we launched it in December 2019. So we were there before the pandemic hit. And our only other competitor is Dental Monitoring, and they were in the field as well. So if you're familiar with Dental Monitoring, we do a similar thing. We monitor patients for remote treatment, and but I feel like we do it better. And it's designed by an orthodontist for orthodontists. And even though you can monitor many other things, I think it's just tailor-made for aligner treatment.
Well, I'll tell you what, my mom, I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas, and I went to dental school where you did. I was class of 87 and you were 94.
Correct.
And my gosh, it scares the hell out of me when my 82-year-old mother's driving across town for an appointment, and it's amazing. The prescriptions can be delivered. The calls are on her iPad. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, and also I love it. I think it's a better new patient relationship when they call you up and you get to see a face, as opposed to on audio phone. I mean, why would you want audio only when you could have audio visual?
That is, Howard, you just hit on something that was so unbelievable to me. Again, a lot of the obstacles I think are in our minds as caregivers. I thought, well, here I'm going to never see this patient or send them out the door with their aligners. And, that's not what I got into orthodontics for. I got into this to get to know people and be with people. And I'm a people person. Well, one of the things I found out that was counterintuitive is I'm connected to these people in some ways more intimately than the ones that come into my office every 6 weeks or every 12 weeks, because the messages that we send to each other through the app is very much like a text message. So we're texting each other back and forth. And when you text someone, you're already on a more intimate level than, if you just called their office on the phone and talked to the receptionist or just sent them an email. They'll ask me questions like, hey, my dog just got a hold of my aligner. What do I do? And if it's a Saturday and I can type back and go, you know what? Hey, I just saw you've only got 3 days left on this aligner. Let's just go ahead and switch today. And I switch their tracking through the app and, take their pictures. They feel great. And the fact that they were able to do that and talk to me, the doctor, it's really been rewarding for me. and patients. It's tying them to my practice more closely, I feel, than the traditional in-office visits.
Do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Yes, I do.
So then obviously the smartest guy on Shark Tank is the bald guy. I mean, the bald guy's always the smartest guy in the room, always. So I'm going to be Mr. Wonderful and say, okay, let's say you're looking for an investment. Kurt, why should I invest in AlignFlow versus dental monitoring?
Well,
you're both telehealth. You're both use AI. So what's the difference?
Good point. I think ours is more focused for orthodontic aligner patients, which is going to be the easiest to monitor. Dental monitoring is monitoring everything out there. Their focus is not quite as tight. They also have a lot of things that I think are superfluous, like have you seen the box that you put your phone in and then attach to the lip and cheek retractors and try and take your pictures with? It's really complicated and it's costly. Those aligner boxes cost money, and the fee structure for dental monitoring is pretty expensive. Once you get a lot of patients going, last time I checked, they charge $12 or so per patient. And if you have, several hundred patients going, $12 per patient per month times 500 patients is ridiculous, where ours is more of a traditional app pricing structure where you pay monthly, a flat fee, use it as much as you want, as many messages or photos back and forth to patients. And I think we're poised for better growth inside the aligner market.
Nice. And AlignFlow, just so I'm right, the brand, the first letter is not capitalized, right? It's small a.
That's correct on our logo.
Okay,
AlignFlow.
So it's more focused on clear aligners, is what you're saying.
That's correct. Now,
okay, so I want to ask you some tough questions about clear aligners. Sure. I got a lot of kids watching me. By the time you get a little older and a little smarter, you have no time for me. So I only get them when they're in dental kindergarten school. When these kids hear some orthodontist say, "I can do every case with a clear aligner," and then they go talk to their dad, who might even be an orthodontist, who says, "No, 80% of my cases are wires and brackets, and it's only about 20% of my practice." So if you're a kind of a real world person and a handful of orthodontists, they're saying 80-20, and then there's guys saying 100%. So which one is it? I mean, can you do every case in Kansas City with clear aligners?
No, and I don't try to, but I have seen a lot of aligner growth in my practice. I was 80-20, and I started doing aligners back in 2000. So I've been doing aligners for coming on, 21 years. And I was 80-20 for a long time. This year was the year we hit the 50-50 mark. So of my starts in 2020, 50% are traditional edgewise braces and 50% are aligners. And that's just going to grow. You can do what you put your mind to. Aligners move teeth. I can show you cases, and it's amazing. Aligners will do things that braces can't, especially with open bites. There are some mechanics that we're doing now, treating open bites with aligners, that we couldn't do with edgewise appliances. We had to do surgery to close down those open bites. So, aligners can do things that braces can't, and braces can do things that aligners can't. And another UMKC guy, a friend of mine, Don Spillers in Warner Robins, Georgia, is in last year, in 2019, was 80-20, 80% aligners, 20% brackets. And he was expected to go to 90% this year. So you can do it any number of ways. Aligners are great, but there are always going to be those outliers that you can't treat all the way with aligners. You're going to have to put brackets on at some point.
And I'm going to ask you the same question about AI. I mean, come on. We've been hearing about AI since the 1950s and IBM, with movies, science fiction, all this kind of stuff like that. And it's kind of hard for me personally to trust because AI wants all this big data. I got 7 grandchildren from 1 month old to 13. And last Christmas, this time, it was little Mason. He was like 1. And Grandpa wasn't looking, and he touched the charcoal deal. And right when I looked over, he touched it, and he whipped his hand away immediately. And I was there for 10 days. He never touched it again. Whereas AI would need like 1 million observations of little Mason touching this thing before an algorithm. So when they tell me how they need this big data and big algorithms, I'm like, well, my 1-year-old grandchild's smarter than that. He touched it one time and he ain't ever touched it again. So is AI a marketing thing? I hear the same thing from my cell phone tower friends. They say there's no 5G in America and it's all hype. And if you're going to do 5G, it's going to throw twice as much data, but half the space. So you have 300,000 cell phones in America. You need 300,000 more between each one. So he says, if you're not seeing new cell phone towers put up in your neighborhood, but they're telling you at the store, oh, this is a 5G, So my question is AI a real thing or is it a marketing thing?
It's both. AI is probably not the most correct term, but it's what people understand. I tend to like the term machine learning, and I think that's what we're talking about. Take for example Invisalign and what they know now. I saw advertised during a football game. They said over 9 million patients treated. Well, they have data on those 9 million patients that are treated, and they know what movements we prescribed in the aligners to move teeth, and then over time they're able to, with our scans and case refinements and whatnot, when we request more aligners for movements that didn't occur, or when we send them a scan for retainers, they'll be able, they can see what aligners, what movements did occur with aligners. And once you have that much data on that many teeth with that many patients, they pretty much can predict which movements are going to work on a specific tooth, on a specific patients, and which are not, based on those 9 million patients' teeth, and which were successful and which were not. And that's machine learning. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about figuring out what pattern of wear and what pattern of reporting on the app, because these patients report daily on how many hours a day they wear their aligners. And we can monitor through the pictures and through their treatment how well their treatment is going. And once we know how much they're actually wearing it, which, today we're just have to take the patient's word for it. But once we know what pattern of reporting equates to successful aligner treatment, we can adapt our recommendations for aligner changes. How many days do they need to wear an aligner? 7, 10, 14? Well, we can pinpoint that with machine learning, and that's what I think we're talking about.
And how much longer between before the AlignFlow takes away our freedom and liberty and locks us up in the basement and everything that they're all saying? If you read the papers, you know that humans were only the connecting between biology and aliens. I mean, we're just going to live long enough to build artificial intelligence, and they're going to kill us and move on. Does that worry you?
No, but I did see that movie Social Dilemma, and that was quite interesting when they that type of AI with social media or apps is pretty interesting. When they make these applications like Facebook and Snapchat and TikTok so appealing that you don't want to set your phone down, that type of AI is a little interesting. But I don't know. Hopefully I won't be locked in my basement by cyborgs in my lifetime.
So you're talking about the movie The Social Dilemma
Yes.
on Netflix. So
Yeah.
do you recommend over the holidays to watch that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's quite interesting to figure out, what they're doing and how it works, and to know that. I think everyone needs to know that.
Well, I'm very excited about AI because I love history. And if you study 5,000 years of recorded history, that natural intelligence didn't seem to work out too well. So I think I really am excited. I mean, in my mind, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon in '69, and it seems like yesterday that I was watching that. I was 7 years old. I was born in '62, and my smartphone's got a bigger computer than he does. And I when this smartphone came out in 2007, I knew it was a game changer because I noticed that, like, you get in the car with your staff and you're going to lunch. You're driving to a Mexican restaurant, and someone say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, stop!" And they jump out and they'd run in. They go, "I forgot my phone." I'm like, "Dude, it's not your hand. It's not your foot. You didn't leave your eye on the table. It's your cell phone." I'm thinking Motorola pager, cell phone, whatever. But
Yes.
man, when that thing was connected to the internet, it was like I have my eyes, I have natural intelligence and my eyes looking at my handheld artificial intelligence, and they're just glued to it. And it's just a current going back and forth. And I really hope it augments the natural intelligence until they can just at least quit killing each other. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't care anything. I don't care if they have crooked teeth, straight teeth. I don't care what religion, politics. If they can just get to a point where they just stop killing each other, and I do. I called it when Steve Jobs came. What do you put? He put the touch screen, the cell phone, the email, the internet, the calculator, your entire music supply. When he shoved that all into one little box, I said, this is going to be humans' finest century. From 2007 to 2107. I'd bet I'd bet everything on that. I want to ask you another, I call my show Dentistry Uncensored because I don't want to talk about anything that everybody already knows or everybody agrees on, but this is a tough question, and it's tough. They come out of school and they're young kids and they go work as an associate somewhere, and they tell mom that little Billy needs braces, and mom looks her in the eye and says, "Okay, is this cosmetic? I mean, is this like a tummy tuck, an eye lift? Is this just whiter, brighter, sexier teeth so Megan can get married and doesn't have to join the nunnery, or is this about health and physical health?" And then when they say, "Oh, it's for health," but they don't really give concrete examples to mom to where she would get it. How do you explain that to a mother who really doesn't want to spend $6,000 and if I was a father, I had 4 boys, I didn't care. But if I had 4 daughters, I would have pulled all their front teeth and uglied them up. I wouldn't want to spend $6,000 on helping them get in trouble. But how do you answer that with your patients?
Well, that's a loaded question, and I probably answer it different than most, but I wish more people use this answer. First of all, I believe that all of the dental problems that orthodontics can fix or alleviate or make better can be fixed another way. Let's say someone has a class 2 occlusion, and I've heard it said that if they have an end-on cusp tip to cusp tip class 2 occlusion, they're going to increase tooth wear over time. Well, there's another solution for that. You could get a bruxism guard and wear it at night, and you would preserve tooth structure. If you're doing it for TMJ issues, again, you can make some type of orthotic that will treat TMJ issues. So I don't think orthodontics is specifically necessary to treat all dental problems. Now, if you're having trouble cleaning your teeth with extreme crowding and teeth are overlapped, then yes, aligning them up will help you keep your teeth longer. But in most cases, I turn it back on the patient and say, you know what, we're talking about aesthetics. Aesthetics is what drives this business. And if you cannot select one reason that you want to get your teeth straightened that is cosmetic and aesthetic, then we're better off not doing orthodontics. You know what? There's other solutions for you in dentistry that we can treat these specific issues, whether it's periodontics, traumatic occlusion, tooth wear. All of those things do not require orthodontics to mitigate. And once you make the patient tell you that they want braces for aesthetic or cosmetic reasons, you flipped it on them, and they are motivated. They want treatment because people want to pay money for the things that they want. They don't want to spend money for the things that they need. Like, I don't want to spend money for cardiac bypass surgery, but I want to spend money to straighten my teeth. I don't want to spend money to get my knee replaced. How much fun is that? Those are things you need to do. Braces, I'm sorry, orthodontics, and I could get in trouble here. I think there's other ways to mitigate the problems that orthodontics can fix. Does that answer it for you?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I want to make one thing clear. When clear aligners came out, they said it was the first invisible braces. No, in 1979 they invented lingual braces. That was the first clear aligner braces. They were on the inside. Why did that never take off? What do you think of that? Because it looks to me like it's kind of trying to make a comeback.
Yes, and with the new digital workflow, it's going to be a lot easier. I think the reason it didn't take off is it was very difficult on the clinics, assistants and doctors, to do traditional lingual braces, and it was very difficult on the patients. It tore up their tongue, and they were hurting for at least 2 weeks, if not longer. And even once they got comfortable talking and eating and chewing and didn't have mouth sores and tongue sores, it was still in the way. There's more room in the vestibule for braces on the buccal and facial surfaces of the teeth than there are on lingual braces. So it was hard on everybody. That's why it didn't take off. Now they have lower profile brackets, which are using software like SureSmile or Invisalign software, where you can straighten the teeth and then fabricate lingual braces and put them on. But I think it's too late for lingual braces. Aligners are efficient, and with skilled clinicians and excellent orthodontists like there are here in America, doing 90% of their orthodontic patients treatment with aligners and only 10% with braces, why would you use lingual when you've got aligners that work so well?
And human braces are still attributed to, in 1819, the first modern braces for teeth were actually created by Christopher Francois de Bar in 18. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the modern edgewise appliance, yes, there were people straightening teeth and using expanders and headgears and all types of things for a long time. I mean, you can go back to the Aztecs and the Incas when they would put plates on the orthopedic forces on their child's heads to change the shape of them.
I learned something interesting this year about braces. When we were at UMKC, they said it was first used by the Egyptians, and they were showing these braces. But then as archaeology got really advanced, they said, no, that was post-death fixing them up for the gods. So that wouldn't have been done on a live person. That would have been done on getting you ready for your, I guess, open casket funeral. So what other, well, I'm going to ask another hard-hitting one before I go on other things. There's a lot of kids in school that the only reason they went to UMKC is, they wanted to be an orthodontist when they grow up. They want to grow up and be just like you. But I'm looking at the 12 specialties, and my God, yours seems to be the most under attack. I mean, it's not just orthodontists not wanting their referring general dentists to do the cases. You got Smiles Direct Club. You have there's 40 clear aligner companies out there, and at least half a dozen of them are trying to go direct. Do you think that in 2020 that if you were looking at a kid in dental school, you're like, no, 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 no. By the time you get out of dental school, become an orthodontist, and start up your practice, we'll be dead by then. You missed the war. What do you think about all that competition?
Well, I know exactly what you think. And I used to tell people, you'll be fine, you'll be fine, you'll be fine, without really thinking about it, because I've always been an optimist. But my son is in his residency for orthodontics, and he will graduate in the summer of 2022. And when he asked me that question, that'll make you really sit down and think. So I thought this over carefully, because I needed to know what to tell my son when he was in dental school, if he should pursue orthodontics or not. And ultimately, I told him he should. I think the future is bright, but you're right. We are getting a lot of competition from different places, and orthodontists themselves. There's a lot of for-profit orthodontic residency programs that are opening up, and we are educating, I'm not sure of the exact number, but we're approaching twice as many orthodontists are coming out of school every year than there was, 10, 15 years ago with a lot of these for-profit schools. And so now there's always been competition to get into orthodontics, and there still is, but there's so many more options for people to become an orthodontist that I think we could be at risk of saturating specific markets. But there's a lot of opportunity in America for orthodontics. And, maybe you just can't go to the city of your choice. But there's plenty of patients, and patients are going to want to come to an orthodontist if we make it attractive for them financially. The only reason I think someone would go to a Smile Direct option would be financially. If you can afford, if we can make orthodontics affordable or comparable or competitive with the Smile Direct pricing structure, and now with remote treatment, we can make the treatment methods comparable, it's a no-brainer. Patients are going to choose to come to a dentist or an orthodontist for aligner treatment, because if something goes wrong or they have a question, who are you going to talk to if you're being treated by Smile Direct Club? Are you going to send an email and wait 2 weeks, or call their 1-800 number and sit in the queue and find out they're not open on Saturdays? Where if you can just hammer out a text to your doctor that delivered your aligners, and shoot a picture and say, is this normal? And find out that same day that it is, and everything's fine, and how are you doing? Happy holidays. That's going to sell, and that's going to keep us in the market.
That is a profound deal. But since you thought about it a long time, there are 12 dental. There's only 8. There was 0 in 1900. By the way, I posted something the other day that I thought was pretty interesting. I put a list of the dental specialties, and I reminded them that orthodontics isn't a specialty of dentistry. Dentistry is a specialty of medicine, and the 12 professions are subspecialties of dentistry. I mean, that's that's the bottom line, right? I mean, you have medicine,
Yeah.
subspecialty, dentistry is a specialty of medicine, and then a subspecialty. But when you look at those 12 specialties, again, they're in school and they're looking at these specialties. And by the way, the reason they're looking at specialties is because, my gosh, that's where the market's going. Again, in 1900, there were no specialties. By 2000, physicians had 58, dentists had 8 or 9, and now it's 2020 and we're up to 12. I mean, we've grown from 9 to 12 in 20 years. And there's 40,000 healthcare publications put out each month. And my gosh, you can't keep up on everything. But so now there's 12. Which ones do you think would be better than others? There's oral surgery, endo, perio, pedio, ortho, prosto, anesthesiology, oral facial pain, oral medicine, oral path, oral radiology, dental public health. Do you like, if your boy wouldn't have said, I want to be an orthodontist, if he said, I wanted to be if he told me, if he said to me, he said, Howard, what do you think about me being a specialist? The first thing I think is, well, I look at my eye doctor. He's got an optician that comes in there and does the glasses. He's an MD ophthalmologist. And if you have a retina problem, he sends you to a retinal guy that only does the retinas. If you got diabetes, glaucoma, he sends you to another guy. I mean, you're like one little eyeball, right? And there's all these specialties. And that's where the market's going, because people don't want average care. They don't want substandard care. They want the best. And the average dental specialist makes $320. The average general dentist makes $197. Dive into those numbers deeper. Dentists who own their own practices make $244. Dentists who are employees make $144. So you'll make $100,000 more if you're an owner operator, as opposed to losing your means of production, which is the original word socialism. They hated it when the kings and queens and landlords would come by and take half your crop as taxes. But when they actually took the land too and sold half their deals, that's when they always drew blood and stopped it. So to me, the scientific word of socialism means I own my means of production, and I always recommend that, because I can't find any examples in human history where losing your ownership of your means of production was a great idea. I don't care if you drive an ice cream truck. Own the damn truck. That's my advice. But oral surgeons, so to be a specialist is a $100,000 bonus, and that's where the market's been going from 1900 to 2020 in a straight line. Read the Pulitzer Prize winning book by Paul Starr. I think it came out in '84, The Rise of the American Healthcare System. I mean, it's like Germs and Steel. It's one of those books where you're going to read it every 10 years. It's so profound. So I obviously recommend specialty. But of all those specialties, do you think some of them are better than others? On a 40-year projectile.
Absolutely. I mean, in no disrespect to anyone who's in any one of these specialties, some of the newer ones, or some of the more less popular ones, or ones that are more, I don't know, institutionalized, maybe, are not going to perform as well financially. For example, public health or something like that. But that doesn't mean that that's not rewarding if that's what you want to do, and how, what the type of career that you want. If you're talking purely financial, yes, I think others will perform better than the rest. And I would guess anything that's hands-on that people need to come see you for. And again, I'm talking about remote treatment where they don't need to come see me, but that's more in response to the changes that orthodontics is going through and trying to keep my market share. But oral surgery, you can't remotely pull someone's tooth, and they can't pull a wisdom tooth themselves. So I think oral surgery is pretty solid. Perio is pretty solid. Read the list to me again.
Well, you nailed the first two. So the bottom line is, the first two are oral surgery and endodontics. Average oral surgeon's making $448. Number two is periodontist, $330. Endo's $307. And by the way, endo would be right behind oral surgery in the 400s if they never invented the microscope. When I got to school in '87, the average endodontist was doing 8 to 9 molars a day for $1,000 each, and they were all in the 400 category. Then they bought a microscope and started to be neurological surgeons, and they slowed down to 4 or 5 molars a day.
Really?
And my gosh, but they're still at 307. I mean, if you're whining about making $300,000 in the richest country in the world, you're out of your mind. So oral surgery's first, 448, perio's 2, 330, endo's 3 at 307, pediatric dentist 304. I'm still looking for a job that would be worse than a pediatric dentist. I haven't found it yet. I don't know what it would be. God bless the pediatric dentist. I mean,
yes.
What are you gonna do? I'm gonna hear screaming, yelling, crying children Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. and then orthos next at 289. Prosto jumps down to 219, and then you start getting into dental general practitioners 197. But again, if they own their own practice, 244. If they rent, it's 247. But back to that list, you were saying it was oral surgery, endo, perio, ped, ortho, pros. Then comes the other less common ones: dental anesthesiology, oral facial pain, oral med, oral path, oral radiology, dental public health. What do you think of the bottom 5? On my list. And I listed him in, oh, by the way, that's a great question. What was the list and the order? And the list and the order was supply and demand for getting a job in a DSO. When you get a job, when you come out of oral surgery school residency, you just walked out day one, you can get a job in Arizona. They'll sign you on a $350,000 base pay. And then you'll get 45% or whatever, and I know some of them make $700 the first year. Endodontist, same thing. So what does that tell you, kids? Is that public health is about when you go to the hospital and you say my leg hurts, they never say to you, oh, we don't do legs. I'm sorry, you need to drive to Olathe. We just do arms here. I mean, if you can't pull a tooth or do a root canal, you got to get them out of pain. That's public health. Your dentists are dropping the ball. 8.5% of emergency room visits are odontogenic origin. When a dentist tells me, well, who are these people saying that we're not real doctors? Dude, you're not a real doctor if 8.5% of the emergency room visits are people in pain from their teeth. So you have to be able to pull a tooth, and you have to be able to do a root canal, or you're not a public health dentist. And then next is a perio, pediatric dentist, ortho, prosthodontist, dental anesthesiologist. So when you're looking at people that are employing big group practices, group practice, multiple location, those are who they're trying to hire right out of the gate. Then next you got dental anesthesiology. And all I'm going to say about dental anesthesiology is a couple of these malpractice carriers, they mail me every month the claims they made. And every time it's $1 million plus figure, they all have one thing in common. Somebody died with an IV in their arm, and you just don't ever be dumb enough to do it. It's completely insane. I'm saying that even though we just put up on Dental Town, we just put up a complete curriculum, everything you need for anesthesiology. But I don't like it because you think you're, if I mess up a root canal, oh, it's extracted. The reason failed root canals, the reason complaint attorneys don't want to take them to court is because if it goes to a trial, you're going to have a jury of a dozen people, and half of them are going to be wearing a flipper or a partial or an upper denture, and they're looking at, Karen up there crying that she lost her bicuspid, and she's like, I don't even have a tooth in my head. So my God, when somebody dies, it is just absolutely horrible. And then they're going to put you on the witness stand, and they're going to bring a board-certified anesthesiologist, and he's going to play with you like a monkey for a week. And that whole jury is going to know that you're not a board-certified anesthesiologist. And what's crazy about it is everyone listening knows someone that had a baby, their wife, their mom, somebody, and you go to the emergency room in the middle of the night to have a baby, and they say, do you want a epidural? And if you say, yeah, they just text an anesthesiologist, and he's sitting over at the Waffle House, waiting for his beeper to go off, and he's there in 5 minutes. That same guy can come to your office. I don't like it, man. I don't like it, and just don't do it. So then you're down to oral facial pain, oral medicine, oral path, oral radiology, dental public health.
Yes, I don't know much about those specialties. I wish I knew more, and I wish we had more access to them, because how many times have you seen a patient that you feel would benefit from seeing an orofacial pain specialist? Where are they? Where do you send patients like that? How often do you end up, treating them yourself? And after splint therapy doesn't work, where do you go? So I think there's a place for that specialty for sure. But are there enough of them? And are they in every state?
I want to ask you something personal. Do you think your love of clear aligners might be biased because you don't like edgewise mechanics and wire bendings and traditional braces? Is that kind of it?
Oh.
Is that kind of it?
No, I love bending wire, and you know, I look for opportunities to bend wire. Love bending closing loops, omega loops, boot loops, stepping them up and down. Uh, I worked with my dad who, bent a lot of wire, and it's a badge of honor that I can do that stuff and do it effectively and quickly. And I find myself sometimes, I'll be in the operatory and I'll look down the line and we're not too busy, and I'm like, I'm gonna make this deal. My old man used to make these, and I'm gonna bend it myself. And I'll ask Becky, I say, do I got 15 minutes to hammer out this wire? So I love it. You know what? We have to offer patients what they want. And today's patients are demanding more clear aligners, especially adults. And that's where I think the growth in that is coming from. So I don't avoid bending wires at all. I'm efficient and I minimize the amount of wire bending I need to do, and try straight wire mechanics whenever I can and close with power chains. But when that stalls out, sometimes closing an extraction space on a straight wire with power chain stalls out, and you're going to have to bend some closing loops, and you better know how to do it, and you better like doing it, because you're going to have to do a lot of it. I remember one of our residents, one of my fellow instructors, Jim Osborne, one of the new residents, their fingers were bloody and their fingernails were broken, and they'd been bending loops and wires and everything. And she looks up at Jim and goes, how long are we going to have to do this? Meaning the segment of this course where the wire bending was, that lasted a couple weeks. And he slams his pliers down on the table and goes, you're going to have to do it for the rest of your freaking life. And that's the truth. If you get into orthodontics, you're going to be bending wire the rest of your life. So you better like it. And I'm thankful I do. It's fun, but you know what? I'm doing less of it than I was 15, 20 years ago.
You just admitted to everyone that you're a geek. You're a nerd. It's now out. When you say you love wire bending, you have to be a techie, nerdy geek. I want to say something about ortho, and that is, the only goal of a species is to, protect itself and consume resources and live long enough to reproduce, to have offspring. If you're not going to drop a gamete, you have no purpose. And everybody alive today is not from all the philosophers, and this is from all the people, all the moms who had babies. I mean, that's the only definition of success, is that our species doesn't end up like the previous 5 billion species that went extinct on a planet that's only 4.5 billion years old. We have 500 million more extinct species. So all you want to do, everything your life is telling you, is to live long enough to drop a gamete and keep continuing. And part of that is you got to attract another primate. And I've lectured in 50 countries, and I could not believe, I don't care how poor the country was. I mean, when we were eating dinner in Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, 5 or 6 different countries in Africa, as soon as the waitress found out we were a dentist, that we were dentists, the first question out of their mouth is Invisalign. And then I was in Shenzhen, about an hour and a half north of you cross Hong Kong into China. There's Shenzhen. It's about an hour north, and had the most. I had a really unique. I have a really unique experience. I live in America. I mean, there's a lot of people that look like me, right? And 3 times. One was in Chiapas, one was in Tanzania, and one was in China, where I got to feel what it's like to be the only one that looks like me. And when I got out of the car, my friend starts laughing, and everybody stopped. I mean, everybody stopped, and they were saying, he told me, he said that, they probably haven't seen anyone that look like you. Maybe the kids, maybe never, and a lot of them maybe never. And then the same thing happened where, they were staring at. So what I do is I would sit down in front of the kids, and then I'd lean my bald head toward them, and the bravest one would reach up and they'd touch me, and they'd go, "Ooh." And as soon as they all saw it was safe, then 20 kids, put their hand on your head and all this kind of stuff. But what I've noticed is he was telling me that in China, the girls spend 40% of their income on things that make them look beautiful. Lipstick, high-heeled shoes, Invisalign, clear aligners, whatever. And that's that pretty as a peacock thing. And my gosh, when you go to a country where they're all living on dirt floors and you see half a dozen people with clear aligners, it ain't going away. And then growing up in Kansas, I was born in 62 and I went to Catholic school, all those big families, only the most messed up child would get the braces. And now the families are down to 2 kids and both are going to get braces, and then they're going to get them again probably when they're 30, and then they're going to get them again in their 50s. I mean, I already have several patients that are my age that are getting braces for the 3rd time in their life. So this, I see massive, so there's supply and demand. So there, the dentists supply these services, or the orthodontists, but the demand is going all the way to 8 billion customers 3 times a century, and the demand is off the charts. And I was asking this, and it's all irrational, because in Asia, they do not want, they put their chin to their nose, and if their lip touches their finger, then they want their upper bicuspids pulled, and they want it pulled back. And I'm just looking at this girl thinking, okay, there's 1,300,000,000 people in your country. Half of them are boys, and not one of them, not a single one cares if that lip touches your finger, but they care, and they're willing to spend 40% of their income to fix it. So when you're talking about attracting a primate to mix gametes with, this industry isn't ever going away.
Agreed. I agree. The demand, I have seen the demand increase, and Invisaligns, or clear aligner therapy, and all aligner companies are helping drive that, because now patients have at least 2 options that they can think of: traditional edgewise brackets or aligners. And in my area, I've seen the same thing. Demand is very, very high.
Now, does your teledentistry app, your AlignFlow, and the app for the on your smartphone is what do you call it? Essential Dental?
Align Essentials.
Align Essentials. See, I have almost no memory. And when you see that, where do you think this is going to be, like in 5 years or 10 years? I mean, what's the next big thing for teledentistry, telehealth, your AlignFlow app? Where is this headed eventually?
Well, I think more and more offices, orthodontic and dental offices, are going to use it to treat aligner patients, because just what I've experienced, patients do not want, if you're seeing your aligner patients every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks, and the patient comes into the office to get their next series of aligners, you're going to give them 3, 4, or 5 or something. And you look at their teeth, and the aligner that they've been wearing for 2 weeks fits perfectly. And you have them take it out and put in the new aligner. And then they look at you and they ask you, why did I need to come in? And you know that this person, missed work, or if it's their child that had the appointment, the parent missed work, drove to school, called the attendance office for the kid. And even though they told the kid 2-3 times before they dropped him off, but remember, you have an orthodontic appointment at 10 o'clock, the kid forgot and he's in gym class. And then you got to wait for the kid to change clothes and get in the car. And then, they're late. And then the mom drives them in. And then all you do is go, yep, everything's okay. And then they got to drive back to school, drive back to work. It wrecks their day. And you're doing that every other month. So I think whether it's dental monitoring or AlignFlow or some other app that comes along, dentists and orthodontists are going to have to monitor these patients remotely. So you can tell them that everything's okay from home. And then they don't miss work in school, and they continue their aligner treatment. And at any point, the aligners aren't tracking, or the teeth aren't moving, or they need some intervention that only you can provide in your orthodontic office, you text them or call them through the app and say, hey, come on in, we're going to do this, and I'll see you in a few weeks. That's that's what people are going to demand. And people's lives are being lived differently now. And this pandemic has changed it in many ways, not just with remote treatment, but, you know, no one wants to live on a schedule anymore. They're all working from home at different hours and doing different things. And they want their dentistry to be the same thing, to not be tied to a certain schedule or frequency. They just want to straighten their teeth with aligners at home, and they want access to your expertise and your knowledge. And they want that access when it's convenient for them. And that's what these platforms provide.
Man, I can't believe we just went over an hour and I still got several questions to ask you. Can you stay for
Let's go to the speed round. Let's go to the speed round.
My homies keep wanting to know, they want me to put you on the spot and ask you to know about the pandemic. Are you going to take the vaccine? Would you take it right now?
Absolutely. I would. I mean, I am not a real doctor. but what I understand from vaccines is it's just a portion of the actual virus that they inject into you so your immune system can recognize it. And I believe that the two vaccines that are available here in America are synthetic. So they don't come from, the live attenuated virus. They're just a segment of the virus that's been fabricated that, will allow my immune system to recognize the coronavirus when and if we all encounter it. And so I am not fearful of the virus, I'm fearful of the virus. I am not fearful of the vaccine for the virus.
Another thing they want me to specifically ask you is, this is my second virus rodeo. I mean, I graduated from UMKC in 87. The AIDS pandemic started in 79. I can remember, having the older guys being told they needed to wear gloves and fighting it just as bad as masks. And I'll never forget a dentist who took me in his private office and showed me his 12-gauge shotgun just sitting there loaded ready, because when that government guy comes in and tells him he's got to wear gloves, he's got to know. And it's like, wow. And then here it is, deja vu 30 years later. But HIV massively changed things. We got rid of cuspidors. We don't have water coming in from the street. We have little plastic bottles. We started wearing gloves, masks. We had all this protocol. Did you... and they're here to stay. I mean, the AIDS pandemic is still going on. It's killed 36 million people. It's just a huge tragedy, but those things stayed with us. They never went away, and I think they really prepared us. What doesn't kill you makes you strong. Really prepared us for the coronavirus, the SARS. But where do you look back, and your dad, Bill, to where AIDS didn't prepare you for an aerial virus? And I can remember, remember Dr. Charlie Cobb, the periodontist at UMKC? I can hear his voice all the time saying, well, just thank God it's an STD and it's not some aerial virus like a common cold. Man, was that the pot calling the kettle black? I mean, and then when this one came out, because when it's an STD, and you're short, fat, and bald, you don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? Because it's never going to happen to you. But with an aerial virus, we were like, God, could you imagine if HIV was blown around in the wind? And Charlie used to say it would have wiped out. It would have been horrible. But where did HIV not prepare your dad, you? And you had to sit there and say, you know what, we got to carry this infection control a little farther. And where were you not prepared, had to go farther? What changes you have to make? And do you still think you'll be doing it 10 years after the epidemic's over?
You know what? I think absolutely we're going to be wearing masks and glasses. I'm not sure about face shields. If I kind of see that after everybody's vaccinated and this kind of subsides, like I hope it does, and our lives go back to normal, I don't know how many practitioners will wear a face shield if they're not creating an aerosol. I think it's a good idea with an aerosol, but can't the same protection can't you get the same protection from eyewear and mask? I don't know. So I'm not sure about the face shield. I think the PPEs are here to stay for doctors that, maybe wore white coats buttoned down or whatever. I see the PPE as being somewhat freeing on some levels. I have colleagues and friends of mine who can wear whatever they want to work. They don't have to put on a dress shirt, khakis, and a tie if that's what they did. You can wear scrubs underneath there. You can wear shorts and a polo shirt to the office. And when you get there, change into your work clothes. And so freeing you up to wear street clothes at lunch and after work, I think is one of the benefits of the PPE. So I think the PPE is here to stay. Masks are here to stay. Gloves are here to stay. I don't know if the face mask or the face shield is going to stay. What are your thoughts? And I have a follow-up question for you. If this, let's say PPE now, and just define it as, our gown, mask, glasses, face shield. What is going to be added next if we have another pandemic in 100 years? I mean, what are we going to be inside a glass bubble? Or, I mean, is this it? Have we reached the highest level of protection equipment with what we have now? Or is there another feature that you see we could add with the next virus or bacteria?
It'll be so interesting. I mean, I'm hearing that that it's all your gut microbiome, and that the vaccines are static in time, but where they'll improve is fecal matter transplants, building your gut microbiome so intense that it'll take anything that's coming at it. I don't know, and a lot of it also it's not reality or not. It's what the customers recommend. I mean, if the customer, what had to happen after, because they closed us down for 2 months in Arizona.
Same.
And when we were closed for 2 months, it was very obvious that when they came back in, they had to visibly see that you changed something and taking this serious. You know what I mean? And
yes.
if they came in, it was business as usual. Even though I'm in Arizona, which is the Florida of the West, I mean, 80% of Arizonans think it's the flu. They think it's an overreaction. They say logical things like, I hear this one all the time. Well, if they really wanted to save, if it was all about ruining the economy for 250,000 people, why didn't they just stop selling cigarettes for the year? That would have saved 400,000 people. And you're like, well, I mean, that's a great argument. I mean, it's de novo. It's all new to us. I mean, I do think that asking you to wear a mask really made a lot of people mad. I do think if you took all their tobacco away, there actually would be a revolution, and it would start before sunset. Oh my gosh. My favorite patient, she sits at the door waiting for me when I get to work, and she's sitting in that remote control go-kart thing with the oxygen tank, puffing on her cigarette to take one last breath before she, oh God, I just love people like that. They're so down to earth human. Do you think in 20 years there'll still be edge wire brackets and all that, or do you think it's going the way of the T-Rex? I'm talking like 2 decades from now. Do you think it'll be the T-Rex?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know what technologies are out there, but it's such an awesome tool that I think it will still be used. What I think will happen is we'll be using it just more as an adjunct or an accessory to orthodontic treatment, where, as what I am looking for and waiting for is when we can actually print aligners, go directly to printing aligners. Because right now, to fabricate aligners, it's still fairly labor intensive. Even if you're on a digital workflow, you scan the patient, then you grow a 3D model or print a 3D model. Then you have to vacuum form the aligner material over that model. And then you have to trim it, polish it, clean it, and then get it ready for the patient. And if you have a patient who has 20 of these stages, and you're doing upper and lower, that's 40 of those things that you have to cut out, polish, align, and 40 models you have to print. If we can just get their case set up on the computer screen and then hit print and print those 40 aligners, that's going to be a game changer. And what I see happening there is dental offices and orthodontic offices having a row of printers in their office printing aligners, and then having the patient either do a short round of edgewise for a really rotated lower canine, or an impacted upper canine, or just some movement that'll you have a feeling aligners aren't going to do, and you have that short period of edgewise either at the start, somewhere in the middle, or at the end, and you do the lion's share of the orthodontic movement with these aligners that you're printing in your office. That's where I think it's going. As soon as we can print a clear aligner, edgewise will be used short term in a patient's treatment, with aligners probably bookending that.
I want to, I swear I'll let you go sooner than later. I got to get through my list of questions. The difference in when we're talking, let's talk about endo first. When you're talking about endo, you can always tell the young from the old. The young dental student will ask you, what do you use to obturate an endo? And then the old dentist will say, how do you find the MB2? And the young dental student will say, what's your favorite way to do braces? Clear aligners or brackets? And the old orthodontist man will say, how do you retain? I mean, it's a lot easier to obturate a root canal than it is to find the MD2. And no disrespect to you, but I think braces or clear aligners, that's a hell of a lot easier than retention. I mean, you pull off these braces and they want these babies to be straight till 102. Do you think the retention is more challenging than straightening?
You know what? It is, because you're managing expectations of patients. And as we all know, that's the trick in life, is managing expectations, whether they're your own, a loved one's, or your patients. And patients, spend a lot of money to get their teeth straight, and you're kidding yourself if they don't expect it to stay that way. That's what their expectations are. Now, I think the vast majority of people don't come back and see me because their retainer protocol is working. So I tend to see everyone whose retainer program didn't work. And so I'm very biased. I'm like the orthopedic surgeon who hates trampolines and motorcycles. I mean, I'm like the orthopedic surgeon who thinks if my kid just looks in the direction of a trampoline, both their arms snap, because I just think everybody has relapse because they're all coming back to me, and we're managing it. So relapse and retention is a real thing, and it's something you got to build into your program, and it's something you got to educate patients about and talk to them about from the very start all the way through treatment and at the end, to manage those expectations, and let them know that you could have some relapse, and we're here for you if you do, and here's what we're going to do about it. And I've found that works a lot better. But every one of my patients that has some movement comes back and shows it to me.
Very, very, very good information. Very profound. I love it. My gosh. And another question I have to ask is, so she gets out of dental school, she's working at a job, and somebody went to Smiles Direct Club, and they don't have any retainers, and she's thinking, well, all I gotta do is I'll just take some alginate. In fact, I'll go back to my root canal. I'll have my assistant come in, take the alginate, send it to the lab, and they'll make the retainers. I mean, this is easy sleazy, right? I mean, is that what you recommend, or is that just a hell no? I mean, talk about that, because these are real challenges they get. That's how they're thinking as they walk out of dental kindergarten.
So you're saying Smile Direct Club patient is finished and they come to you because they want a retainer.
Right.
At the end. Well, I mean, my philosophy has always been, I make retainers and you want one. So I would, just charge them for a retainer if I felt that the position they were in was, defendable long term. If their teeth could remain straight there, and then who cares how they got there? Let's just make them a retainer and go from there.
So, but you don't think she, I mean, she can do this right out of school. She wouldn't have to be able to look at that case, do a mental diagnosis
Oh,
workup,
I'm
or,
sorry. I guess I didn't understand the question. Well,
and
you
I
know,
probably don't understand the question either. I mean, I get about 300 emails a day. And,
so
so, you know,
my biggest problem with or challenge with dealing with Smile Direct Club, and again, keep in mind that there are way more satisfied Smile Direct Club clients or patients, whatever you want to call them, than there are dissatisfied ones. It does work. Uh, you know, I don't like it. I can not like it, but it is moving teeth and it's getting them a little bit straighter than they were from the start. But what I don't like is when the dissatisfied Smile Direct Club patient comes to my office and, wants me to look at their aligners and ask me what's wrong. And, they're wanting my advice. And I'm still struggling with how do you take care of that patient? How do you bring them into your office as one of your patients? Or do you just, I mean, we can't, as specialists and doctors, I don't think it's appropriate to say, oh, too bad. Shouldn't have done Smile Direct Club in the first place. Beat it, I think we're obligated to help these patients whenever we can. I think you just need to charge a fair fee and for whatever treatment you end up doing. Now, getting back to your question, for a dentist who's just out of school and they have a Smile Direct Club patient come in and they ask them to make a retainer because they're done, and you don't know where they started, where they've been, you haven't had a chance to, familiarize yourself with, their specific case or orthodontics in general, I think you should refer to a specialist and say, or someone with more experience. Ask a colleague, ask someone who can help you with these cases, and develop relationships with people in your community. So when something like this happens, you can get together with them either over lunch or after work and use their knowledge. That's what I'd like to see more of in our community, is dentists and specialists and young dentists reaching out to older dentists, and all of us working together to provide the best care for people in our community and to support each and every one of us.
okay, now I'm gonna ask you a question, and we're so over time. Thanks for staying this longer, but if you
Sure.
sit there and tell me I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole, we'll just cut it and we'll be done. Dentistry Uncensored. Overtime question. I've seen these heated arguments between orthodontists and pediatric dentists. I've sat at the table trying to drink beer and do Jello shots while this is going on, watching the Cardinals. And my gosh, the deal is, you know what you do? Here's the orthodontist to the pediatric. You wiped out their whole damn benefit doing this RPE, and then 5 years later they walk in. You didn't do one thing for me, you didn't do one thing for the kid, and my gosh, ortho, one stage, 2 stages. Is it necessary? Is it just for the money? Blah blah. I'm sure you've heard this debate 50,000 million times. So, and then what's really even weirder is now when you see retail. First time I lectured in Australia in 1990, I couldn't believe it. The grocery stores, it was separate for a bread store, separate for a vegetable store, separate for a bread store. And I'm coming from America. That's all under one roof. And the whole deal of retail is that 1 + 1 = 3. And we saw that with clear aligners and Clear Choice, where they said, we're going to get the implant surgeon, the prosthodontist, the lab man, all under one roof. My God, they're doing 18,000 arches a year for 25 grand. And that thing just keeps getting bought and sold higher and higher and higher. And now you look in Phoenix, where a baby pediatric dentist starts and an orthodontist starts, and they're 10 miles apart, and you look at their growth after a year. Then you look at a pediatric dentist and an orthodontist start together, and it's 1 + 1 = 3, because everyone who takes their mom to the pediatric dentist is going to say, hey, is my little Billy going to need braces one day? And so instead of saying go down the street, it's like put under one store. So I just threw like 30,000 questions at you. You know what I'm talking about. What do you think about all that?
Well, I'll answer a lot of them that I heard and tip me. First of all, on early treatment, I think early treatment was overdone, and finally the pendulum swinging back to where there are some exceptions, but the vast majority of patients that benefit from early treatment are cross bites, whether that's posterior cross bites or anterior cross bites, and severe crowding with initiating serial extraction. If you have a class 1 or class 2 patient that has positive overbite and overjet and moderate to mild crowding, there's no benefit to doing early treatment. So don't do it. Reserve early treatment for cross bites, and those are the people that actually get orthodontic treatment for early treatment. Severe crowding, the appropriate treatment is arch preservation with lingual arches or serial extraction or something like that. If they do need an expander, there's no reason you can't kick off the single phase of comprehensive orthodontics at age 12 with an expander. It works great. So that's what my philosophy is on early treatment of orthodontics. The second thing is pediatric dentists and orthodontists. You know what? Anybody can do orthodontics as long as you put in the time and get the training. We have several dual trained ortho-pedo docs in our community. We've also, I remember my dad told me when I was starting out, he said, you know what, old doc so-and-so might be a pediatric dentist, but he does better orthodontics than some of the orthodontists in town. So if you can do it, it's legal to do it, go ahead and do it. But just make sure you're doing the best for your patient. Don't do it just to capture that patient or keep them in your office or in some way boost your earnings. Do what's best for the patient and do no harm. And then it doesn't matter who's doing orthodontics. What was the other part of that question?
Well, actually, that was very good. And all I want to say to the kids is this: learn from my mistakes. I remember when I was I got out of school and I was going to these classes. It was always the same 100 guys in Phoenix. It was always the same people going to all these classes, and I wondered what's up with that. And they were all in the AGD, and they were all trying to get their FAGD, MAGD. So I thought I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow success. And then they told me I had to take all these sections in all these different areas, and I wasn't doing ortho and I wasn't doing implants. So I called the AGD guy and tried to argue his way out because I wanted to take more courses on fillings and crowns. And he said no. And so I just doubled down and kept trying. And he kept saying no. And here's the deal. You don't need to do ortho or place implants. If I could show you a list of 1,000 dental offices in America that collect $1 million a year, and the doctor takes home $250, and all he does is hygiene, fillings, and crowns, and simple endo. He's never placed an implant, a bone graft. He's never done any of that stuff because he knows the people. He doesn't have revolving door turnover. Out here in Phoenix, Arizona, what they say about every DSO is, my God, every time I go in there, it's a different dentist. And the first dentist said I had 4 fillings, and he did 2, and I went back for the other 2, and there was another dentist that said I didn't have any more cavities, and then or another one said I had, it's just, you're selling the invisible. They know what a can of Coke is, they know what a Snickers is, they know what a Butterfinger is, but they don't know what an overbite and 4 MODs is, and so, they don't have, their business is dentistry, and they have a revolving door practice of dentists, and that just doesn't work. If they can stop the revolving door,
Yes.
they'll have something in the urban. They won't go rural because they can't find any dentists to go rural, so that's where the hot spots are. But the bottom line is, the reason the AGD was right that I need to learn ortho is because I got to answer all the ortho questions.
Yes.
And if you can't look in that mouth and figure out what's going on, and I don't recommend orthodontic continuing education any more than I recommend implant deal, because the way you'll do it is you don't have any money. You got $400,000 student loans. Every time you want to learn something, you have to go to KCI Airport, get in a plane, fly across the country, stay in a resort, and drop $1,000 to learn one thing. Shit, you got an orthodontist in your zip code. You want to learn how to place implants, you got a periodontist in here. Because here's the key: if you decide you're going to learn how to do Invisalign, and your first case is some long face, open bite, and the next thing you know, the Salem witch trial department is looking for you. Your teacher that you had to get in an airplane to fly to, he ain't going to be there. My God, I did my first sinus lift on my mother-in-law because I knew that if I killed her, I wouldn't get sued. I mean, you need to learn. And plus now you got a new beer drinking buddy to watch, Patrick Mahomes, who, he doesn't even look like he's even trying. He like dances around and throws the ball. I mean, he never looks like he's even using effort. He just like lopsy-daisy throws it 50 yards. But you need a buddy that's there during your darkest hour, just like a friend. You don't need a friend at graduation, wedding, all that stuff. You need a friend when you hit rock bottom. And my God, if you screw something up, I hope the guy that taught you ortho is your drinking buddy at the Chiefs game.
I agree. And that's one thing I'd like to say to the younger dentists is develop relationships. And if you're in a DSO, it's okay to develop relationships with people outside. That's what I would like to see is become a dental community again and have people that you go over cases with and learn from. And keep in mind that that's what these older dentists, that's what we did. We learned a lot after dental school from just going over cases with people that were gracious enough to spend time with us, our mentors. And now we're out here. And I think that if a lot of people can knock the DSO model and say things about it. The one thing that I'd like to see change about the DSO model is I feel like at least the ones in my community feel like they have to keep everything inside their DSO for their specialists, for their people, for their and I don't think that's good for the community. I think we should all get to know one another, whether we're in private practice or DSO or we're an associate. We can all work together. We can all look at these cases together, brainstorm together, and develop those relationships. Because you're absolutely right. There's going to be a point in time when you're going to need to ask for help. And if you haven't, developed those relationships before you're in trouble, then you're in trouble.
Well, hey, it's such an honor to be talking to a UMKC grad, especially the year that a UMKC classmate of mine, Cesar Sabatez, is the president-elect of the American Dental Association. I wanted to ask you, is that the first for UMKC? Was Cesar the first?
I don't know. I think it might be. That is quite an accomplishment, and I'm proud of him too. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, this is the year of the UMKC. I mean, we got the best quarterback in the Chiefs. We got the president of the 88 next year. And my gosh, seriously, man, you could have been doing so many things, but you wanted to come on the show today and talk to my homies. You accepted my offer to come on. Thank you so much, Kurt, for coming on the show today and sharing your 2 generations of wisdom with my homies for an hour. It was just fantastic to podcast you.
Well, right back at you, Howard. I really enjoyed it. If you ever want to find out what I'm doing, I'd love to do another show. It was so much fun sometime. You take care, buddy.
All right. Have a great 2021. It can't be worse than 2020. Oh. So I don't have to wish you a Happy New Year after 2020, but Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family and your 3 dogs.
Hey, same to you, Howard. God bless. Thank you.